All right, let's do it live on a Monday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily. I am merely Beau. He is merely Z. That's where we are. That's the mindset. Hey, I wanted to start on a positive note. Can we start on a positive note?
Yeah,
really
let's.
positive note. Draft week, that's pure joy.
Excited.
But the other thing I wanted to tell you, did you happen to see over the weekend the viral, it kind of went viral on Twitter, of the local news story in Miami of Bernie declaring to the Browns?
No.
Have you seen this?
No. But I've been seeing Bernie's been tweeting out a bunch of stuff because today was the day. Those many years ago.
So the report starts out with a lovely lady walking on the beach and a guy doing a report, who would ever basically trade this for Cleveland, right? That's how it starts. And it says, well, actually, this man would. And then it goes into the report. And then you see Bernie walk into this press conference with shades on his head, a tank top, these white shorts, and just own it. Just own it. And I was not old enough to remember this. I don't have recollection of it as a kid. But just to see how cool that dude was at that press conference, it brought a smile to my face that nothing that will happen the rest of today or this week will take off, because it was pure joy to see him answer the questions, the way that he handled it, the way he circumvented the draft and got himself to Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's a remarkable thing, and I had never seen that press conference before, but it's fantastic. And the way he's dressed for it is so baller. I cannot imagine what Miami was like for him when he was winning a national championship down there.
So much swagger. I mean, Bernie was
my gosh,
dripping with swagger.
Oh, he was the coolest.
Yeah.
He was the absolute coolest. Yes, it was. It was such a cool thing. If you haven't seen it, go find it. It's definitely worth checking out. It is draft week.
It is. It is
draft week. This, as for me as a kid, was one of my favorite events of the year.
Yep.
This was something that I would block off the time on this Saturday, and whatever plans were trying to find their way into my lexicon on this particular Saturday were quickly rebuffed. This is what I did. It was the draft, and we took it. I loved it. I loved consuming it. It is a totally different thing now in that it's a 24/7, 365 situation where we're on mock draft 8.0 for a lot of these guys, and there's so much content that's out there on it. But in those days, you would wait for the Sports Illustrated or the Sporting News to arrive. And I know Peter King put his out in Football Morning in America, but it was Dr. Z back in the day, the original inspiration for Dr. Z. And paying homage really to Dr. Paul Zimmerman. So you would see his mocks. You would see the Mel Kiper would do one, but I don't even know that he did mocks. I think he just had his big board. For the longest time, he wouldn't do mocks. He just had a big board. There wasn't a mock draft. I don't even know.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know who I don't know who started the mock drafting, but I don't believe it was Mel. I think he held off on that for a very, very long time. So I love this week. I also think that the system is awesome because it sets you up to, if you do this well, you can flip it in a hurry, and we're the best example of that. But it's also a completely inexact science. And all you need to do is go back and look over the last 10 years of top 10 picks and see all the misses. It's hard to get these right, man. It really is.
Yeah.
So it really provides all of that drama, and this week it'll play out here in Cleveland.
Which is exciting. It's right here in our backyard. And again, we will not be picking in the top 10. We will not be picking in the top 20. We are picking 26th. Then we've got a very complete roster at our disposal right now as we get ready to head into this draft. So I think that's going to be certainly different. It's nice to see. It's nice to know. And, one of the things that's really come out today from Adam Schefter and others is just that the teams are not as comfortable with the lack of medical information this year because of no combine, and that you might see some people fall because teams just don't know. And as you pointed out, it's so hard to get it right when you've got all the information, that what's their risk tolerance going to be, when they don't have all of the information.
I think it could be wild. I do. I think there's some. Obviously, it's known at 1 and 2, and it's becoming. And we'll get into what likely will happen at number 3 here in a second. But I think it could be wild, and I think you could see some teams go up and make moves. If there's somebody that you identify, that you go up and get them and be sure of them. We knew this would be this was an atypical year. Obviously, you're dealing with a pandemic. I mean, how many of these kids How many of these kids have these scouts even seen in person?
Right.
You know, how many games have you seen in person of somebody you're drafting? And then to have an inability, to see them at the combine, to see everybody at the combine, the inability to have them into visits. There will be an unsure nature to this. And so if there is something you are sure on, I think teams will give up a lot. And I think that's, that goes back to the 49ers. That's why they gave up what they did to get to 3, because they knew that somebody they wanted would be there at 3, and they're comfortable with giving up what they gave to go get it. And I think you could see more of those. All sorts of rumors around the league of big potential deals being done. And those things could very well play out over the course of this week and by the time you get to the draft on Thursday. From our perspective, though, it's frankly very difficult because not only you don't know, you have 25 teams, 25 picks being picked ahead of you, not 25 teams, 25 picks being picked ahead of you. And what you do will be predicated on what happens in those picks. So it's not like a year ago where we can go, okay, it's a tackle. Who do you hope falls to us? I remember sitting there last year on draft day being like, I remember Joe. The last feeling I remember last year in the draft was Joe was so adamant about Jedrick Wills. And so I thought, well, I trust Joe. I mean, he will know tackles, right? Like, I'm not going to try to know tackles more than Joe Thomas. So if he liked Jedrick Wills, then that's the guy you root for. And then it happened. And we had identified Delpit, and you and I were doing the show on Saturday, and we were looking at Donovan Peoples-Jones down, and we go, oh, boy, this could be sweet.
Yeah.
Per rounds down, we were looking at these things, and it ended up playing out that way. But this year, you don't have that because you have no idea what is going to – there's too many things that are going to happen in front of you. There's too many trends that can happen in front of you. You have no idea if there's a run on a position player. So when Gibby asked the questions, how do the Browns go about winning this draft – I think that's very difficult to define. I think, and you're not going to know it until next year. If somebody, forces their way onto the starting roster or into the nickel situations or something like that, that'll be the first time you'll know if you've won in this.
I don't even know that you'll necessarily feel like you won the draft this year. I don't even know if there is a way to say that necessarily you won it this season, because a lot of what you're going to do is obviously to get some help going forward, and maybe some people, if there's a corner obviously that can play this year, you end up, something like that. But I think the biggest impact is going to be felt on some of the succession planning and the talent acquisition that goes on this year, and perhaps even setting yourself up for next year. Peter Schrager saying there are a lot of teams that might get out of the early rounds in this draft, which goes back to that Bill Barnwell trade where he had us moving out to get the Texans one next year. Maybe that stuff happens. Maybe the Browns say, we like our roster this year. We're gonna need more immediate potential replenishment next year because of all the one-year contracts that we've got and guys who are high paid, et cetera. Then maybe there is something like that. I don't think that you win this draft. You want to know how I think you win this draft? You follow your process and stick to your plan and remain poised. And guess what? That is right in the wheelhouse of the people operating this organization.
Yeah, I saw something today that somebody's saying that the sweet spot in this draft is like between like 35 and 55. That there's a ton of talent in that realm, and maybe that's what you end up doing. The opposite of that obviously would be if there are teams that are trying to move out. Maybe you go into the top 10 and you go make a play. Maybe you go into the top 15 and make a play. Maybe I saw Peter King mock, and I know we'll get to it later, where we move up into the early 20s. You could see those type of things. I think you can be very aggressive. If you want to. We are in a position where we can do either of those things. That's the thing that's hard, and so that's why it's hard to say. If you think back like last year and say, well, how do you define winning the draft? You would have said starting left tackle and get us a safety.
Yep.
I mean, that was it. We were trying to find a way. Remember our infatuation with Dos Unos forever, and then it was clear he wasn't going to be there by the time we picked. So then you say, okay, well, who's the next best safety? And it was Grant Delpit. So in our minds, it was Grant Delpit. So it was like, all right, get the tackle. Go get me Delpit. How do we pull this off? And they did. But this year, it's not that way. There's no way of knowing it. There's so many things they could do at 26, from trade up, trade back, stay there. Even at the position they take at 26, it could be a wide receiver, it could be a corner, it could be a linebacker, it could be a defensive end. I mean, it could be any of those positions that you could go for, depending on if a guy falls. What would be the only positions that you would be shocked that they picked at 26 if they picked it?
At 26,
quarterback,
running back, tight end, offensive lineman, defensive tackle, I would be surprised, but that would probably be the least. But basically anything on offense other than wide receiver would floor me.
Right. Unless Kyle Pitts fell to 26.
Which he won't.
No, he won't. And then defensively, it's everything other than tackle. And if maybe they love Christian Barmore, they might. And if they do, we have no idea. Who knows? They might. It's been very tight-lipped, obviously.
I would put linebacker and defensive tackle as the biggest surprises to me. I would put corner, defensive end probably at the top. And I even think safety, even though you'd say, well, we've got all the safeties now, I still think that that's a position, if there's somebody that they think is great that can play some corner and play some safety, that they gives them more versatility. You might see all four of those guys on the field together. I mean, I really think everything is on the table there. So, yeah, that's why I said we're in a great spot, and it's one that where we're really going to have to let the draft come to us. And I think that we have the right people running the football organization. And, we've got so much stuff coming up from a content standpoint for you guys. Obviously, Browns Daily every day this week. Browns Lives every day at 3 o'clock. And then tonight we have the Browns Draft Preview Show on the radio network, and I'm going to sit down with Andrew Berry. And so there's a ton of stuff to digest, but you've got to really just think about letting this thing come to you. There's nothing that we must do at pick 26. Whereas last year, like you said, when we came out of the combine and we sat down with Stefanski, we knew they wanted to tackle badly. And, when we were watching the draft unfold, you didn't know if any of the big four, remember there were big four last year, you didn't know if any of those big four would be there at 10, and that Joe loved Jed, and his other favorite was Becton. And by the time we picked, they were both on the board, which nobody thought. I think and Wirfs was, because he ended up going to
Wirfs was – he went to
the Bucks. They traded up to get him, and he had a phenomenal season. So, yeah, this is a very different draft for the Browns and for Browns fans, and it's a sign of, we're in a great spot as an organization.
I'm sure you get it all the time. I get it all the time just on, what are we going to do at 26? What are we going to do at 26? And I don't know. Because I know what I think would be priorities, but literally everything that you just said, none of it would surprise me other than the offensive positions you mentioned. I wouldn't be floored if they picked, Jamin Davis at 26. I wouldn't be floored by that. I mean, it's not a position, but if they view him as somebody who's in the Devin White mold, or if they think JOK is in the Devin White mold, then take him.
Sure.
And go put him on the field. So it's just a wide open board. And I agree with your initial point that it's one we're not going to know for a while if you have won it, because it's twofold. It's who can help us now, but it's even more important who can help us next year, the year after. There's future planning at several positions that have to be sorted out. So there's just a lot of dimension to this. And luckily we have all this content. Go ahead, buddy.
The ironic thing, not ironic, but the biggest change in the past is that the only positions where I could really even envision whoever is picked at number 26, saying that nobody gets injured, that we go through with the people we expect to have right now, the only position I think that could be drafted at 26 that could end up being a day one starter, maybe linebacker, corner. I could see a competition emerging between this person and Greedy Williams. But, I think corner and receiver are the most likely picks at 26. If you said I can take those two versus the field, I would be on those two. But, that receiver is probably not likely to be a week one, day one starter, certainly not in 2 receiver sets, maybe in a 3 receiver set, compete with Hollywood there and Donovan Peoples-Jones. But this is, Barmore, I suppose, at tackle, you could say he would compete to maybe start. But for the most part, you're drafting somebody who's going to come in and try to be a, piece that competes and hopefully evolves into a much bigger role down the line. It's not like Jed where this is one of our top 5 most critical positions. We need to get a day one starter in here.
Starting.
Corner is the only one that would fit that mold, and that's a top 5 position, and we could potentially have a day one starter, but that's somebody who would have to unseat a very, very talented Greedy Williams.
Look where we were last year at this time when you needed a left tackle and really Grant Delpit was going to start. So it was, or play a lot. It was going to be Delpit and Jedrick were 2 guys who you were going to be counting on. And now we're at a point where that's just not the case. And There's just a lot of talent on this roster. Those are your OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns, all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com.
So I just want to go over a couple of things from this weekend since we started off there, and then we'll kind of run this first segment out here for a second. Number one, you've been doing reads on this program for Perfect Power Wash. I've been doing some spots for them as well. You can use the code Beau. You can use the code Nathan. Get 10% off. They came to my house on Friday, and when I say it's like I've got a new house, I'm not kidding. That's not even an exaggeration.
Crushed it.
There are things, colors in the brick, colors in the steps in the front of our house, the whole house. They did such an unbelievable job. Job that, I would recommend anybody who's considering power washing their house, call them up at Perfect Power Wash immediately, because I'll tell you, not only was I very happy with it, my wife, Miss Kay, thrilled, ecstatic, which ends up working out great.
That's the big win.
Yeah, that's a huge win. So that works out for everybody.
That's the most important constituency.
They did an unbelievable job. I've lived in my house 6 years. There are things that I didn't even know about until after they came and power washed it. And it's tremendous. So thank you to the pros at Perfect Power
job
Wash.
out of them.
They could not have been more professional, nice, diligent in their efforts. And so I thank them a lot. Again, you use code Beau, code Nathan, get 10% off. But Perfect Power Wash, they're the best. It was unbelievable.
Yes. Yeah, well, that's what they do. I got to finish this landscape work, and then they're coming out here. But
You're in for a treat, though. Like, it's coming.
I know it.
What an absolute treat coming your way. An absolute treat.
They were out here 2 years ago and just crushed it. Absolutely crushed it. This is important because it's what you're doing next. So you have Browns Live, and it's coming next. Browns fans, get ready for the draft here in Cleveland. Special editions, Browns Live. All this week, presented by Graham and Fist Wine in a Can. Catch today's show at 3 o'clock for the latest draft news, analysis, and interviews with the NFL Network draft guru Daniel Jeremiah. Watch Browns Live. That's live at 3.
He will be on live. That's right.
He will be on live.
Yep.
Is he right at 3?
He will be right around, just a couple minutes in the show. We'll open the show at about 3:05, and then he'll pop on with us and we've got him for a good amount of time. We're gonna be with him for close to 15 minutes. So I'm very excited about that.
3 o'clock is a coveted time slot.
It's clearly it's awesome. But I will say, if anybody wants to tweet me questions, use the hashtag Browns Live for questions you want Daniel Jeremiah to answer about a prospect or anybody in this draft. Get them to me, and I will try to get those into the show with him today.
All right, and you can watch it on the Browns website, the Browns YouTube channel, on the Browns mobile app with full replays of the show available at youtube.com/Browns. What I would like for you to ask him, what I'm curious about is, he will know our roster, and he will know where we are and everything. He's one of those guys that will have done the homework on that. So what is a player who has the physical traits that, even if it is a position that we would say we don't need this, we're not drafting this, could conceivably drop and force us to pick them just because their talent is such that it can't be ignored?
Yep.
That's what I'd be curious about. So that's your little homework for Uncle Beau. Get that done for me, will you?
I like that.
It is a wild bunch of news around the NFL. We'll try to catch you up on all of it. We are off and running here on a Draft Week Monday edition. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Knowing what limit is important, whether it's a snap count for a football player or a spending limit when you're playing the lottery. So if you like to gamble, set a limit beforehand and stick to it. If you want to learn more, go to keepitfunohio.com for helpful tips on how to keep gambling fun. We'll go around the league here in a minute. Zeev, a couple more issues from the weekend, sir?
Just a couple more things that I wanted to toss out there. Number one, did you see any of the UFC fights this weekend?
No, none.
You have not seen the clip of the kick?
I've seen some stuff going around social, like a guy getting smoked, and then I saw a leg break. But I don't have context in terms of any of these human beings. UFC didn't take for me. I'd love.
Sure.
The only time I bought a fight in 20 years was Stipe a few years ago.
Of course, Stipe.
But it's just not my wheelhouse. So,
no,
but I did see a couple of gifs going around.
The kick on the leg, where the kicker snapped his leg in half on the other guy's shin. He was the one who delivered the kick. The person delivering the kick broke their femur, which was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. And I followed it via the social. And then the knockout that happened at the end was just tremendous for so many reasons. But it was a great, great knockout and a great kind of end.
When you say tremendous, so many reasons, was the person who was knocked out a bad human?
I wouldn't say bad
human,
but was very braggadocious, a lot of bravado, and in fact, the second before he got knocked out, he was smiling at the guy in the face, thinking like, "Oh, I got you now," and bobbing his head around and smiling at him, like smirking at him.
Got it.
And then the guy knocked the smirk right off his face and knocked him out.
Okay,
which was
that's pretty sweet. Then that's a good job.
That ended up being pretty good. So that was
that's
that.
Pretty good.
I got a pizza place for people on the east side to try.
Okay,
it's called Uncle Spike's. It's in Aurora. It was recommended to me by the kid. Okay, you get their New York style. It's 8 slices.
Oh, I love a New York style.
24 inches, 8 slices. A slice. Arden held it up, completely covered her face. Couldn't even see her head. So we had that Saturday night. It was me and the kids, and we had a little pizza and a little Fortnite fest, which was so much fun. But this pizza definitely worth checking out on the east side. There was that. And then the other thing, my house is looking white thanks to a perfect power wash. I got my teeth, went in Beechwood Dental, my guy Dr. Mickley today. They took care of me. I know you don't follow me on social, but you see my ridiculous picture that was taken mid-chair? It was great.
I did see that mid-chair, which was very good. Obviously somebody who I follow must have retweeted an image of you.
It was big.
So I became aware. That was a good shot of you.
Yeah, great
You
shot.
mentioned the New York style. Well, we're giving out shout-outs to pizza joints. My guys Lucas do a pretty good job in Stowe. Lucas does a New York style pizza that's very, very good. Yeah,
okay.
Very, very good. Yeah.
I'm into finding good
Southeast side.
I don't have it much. I don't have pizza often. But when I do, I would desire for it to be great.
Yeah, and I'm in New York,
same,
which I think is just pizza.
I agree.
I think New York pizza is just pizza, and I think like the Chicago stuff, that's casserole.
That's not for me. That's not for me. It's never been for me. It just isn't.
Yeah.
And I know there are people that love it, and so they
That'll
like a lot of bread.
over it. Yeah.
You love bread. I like pizza.
Yeah, I like pizza too. That's what I like.
Yeah.
All right, good job out of you on that front.
Yeah, just
I actually was able to, just real quick on the weekend observations. A friend of mine in Columbus, the boys are playing lacrosse, and it was freezing on Sunday afternoon and morning.
I golfed in Scotland.
It was like in
yesterday
the 40s.
afternoon. Yeah.
Okay, there you go. So it was wet, it was damp, and we were actually in Chagrin Falls playing. And a buddy of mine gave me
give me a shout out? You want to come say what's up? Come on, you're my backyard.
Beamsy's banging home goals. We're whipping the Tigers? Whipping the Tigers.
Let's
up
go.
and down the field.
Sure.
No big deal. But buddy of mine gave me this heads up. The boys' hands were getting cold, and he said that the pro lacrosse players wear like surgical gloves underneath their gloves to keep their hands warm. So I found some on Amazon, and lo and behold, you took those things off, and their little hands were like little heaters. It was incredible.
Wow.
What a job.
That is.
So I'm here to spread the word for the people. I'm here to spread the word. If your kids' hands are getting cold playing hockey or lacrosse or anything like that, little surgical glove underneath. You can get those gloves on Amazon and check it out.
Just like a little latex glove.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like their hands were like heaters. And the week before, they were ice cubes, like frozen. But they were like little heaters. They were just so warm when they took them off. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked out great. You could have used him out playing golf on this yesterday. Would have kept your hands warm.
And it was windy. It was.
Do you double glove it? It was windy.
I
That was
don't.
the problem.
I can't do that. I can't. I have to play.
Even in adverse conditions?
No. I have rain gloves if it's raining, if it's pouring, and you need those. But then again, I have now as a person in my mid 40s or early 40s.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in golfing
early,
in the rain.
No, it's done. Wait for a good day.
Yeah.
You'll sort it out.
Right.
Let's go around the league. The latest NFL draft rumors. So Rappaport had this Sunday that the Niners know who they're taking at 3, or who they're not taking, rather. It will not be Justin Fields. It'll be Mac Jones or Trey Lance at number 3 overall, and they're still deciding. Which, two things on this. Number one, I don't believe they're still deciding. I believe their mind has been made up, and probably for a while. And I think if this is to be believed, that Fields is out, then I think this was done from Rappaport to soften the blow with 49ers fans because, and I've talked to Nick Wagner this morning from San Francisco, covers the Niners for ESPN, and the fans want Fields out there in the worst way, and I'm guessing that this was done so they don't have a Donovan McNabb booing the draft pick situation.
They'll boo if it's Jones no matter what.
Right.
But Lance, I think they'd be fine with.
I think they want Fields, is the consensus that I hear from out there, that they want Fields. Not necessarily you as a 49ers fan, but the people that out there want Fields.
Pedro, boots on the ground, wants anybody but Mac Jones. I can tell you that. So I think that there's a lot of people that are in the anything but Mac Jones category. I also wouldn't be surprised at all if this means they take Fields and then he's just loving manipulating the media. I mean, of course they knew who they were. When they made the trade, they knew who they were drafting. I will not be convinced
it's
otherwise.
Too big.
Of that.
It's too big of a pick for him.
Right.
It's a fireable offense if he blows it. You don't give up what they gave up and not hit on this. So he has to hit. He has to be sure. He has to know who he wants. And by the way, this notion that he's choosing between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, that's like saying I'm going to get a new car, and I'm either going to get a Ferrari or a Range Rover. They're both nice, but they're not the same. Those can't be your finalists. If you're picking between a Ferrari and a Lamborghini, fine, similar vehicles. Picking between a Range Rover and a whatever the heck SUV you want, fine, similar vehicles. These are two different vehicles. Mac Jones and Trey Lance are not similar players in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that they would be the two finalists makes no sense to me at all, none.
The fact that Mac Jones feels like, if to use your car analogy, let's say Garoppolo's like a Yukon Denali, he feels like just a newer version of that's currently healthier.
Yeah.
Whereas Lance feels like, to your point, a different type of vehicle, a completely different car. And that's why I don't think you give up 3 ones to get what you've got younger and healthier when you want it to be better than what it currently is. If they pick Mac Jones, I will still be stunned. At no point do I think they are picking Mac Jones at all. I think Fields and Lance are the best fits for them. I mean, there are people who really like Lance. There are a lot of people that think Lance is the best quarterback after Lawrence in this draft.
I think one of the most amazing things about this whole process is how you can't even have how there isn't even a dialogue around Zach Wilson at number 2.
No, that it's just
he's definitely the second best. Wait, based on what exactly? Like, it's a remarkable thing that, I mean, he's going to the New York Jets, and there's no dialogue about justifying the pick. None. It's funny, we have all these people on to talk quarterbacks, and I've never heard anybody say that, like, he's unimpeachable.
No, he makes some Mahomes-looking throws, strange. But yeah, it's not even a question, right? The draft starts at 3.
Yeah. Now no one's even like going, "Oh, are we sure Zach Wilson's that good at 2?" Nothing.
No, none of it. We've gotten rid of Sam Darnold.
None of it.
We're taking Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Kyle knows it. That's why he went to 3. It's done.
Yeah.
Done.
It's done. A lot of rumors. And by the way, I saw Pelissaro with us this morning as well on the Fields front, just to put a ribbon on that, saying that the Patriots could be eyeing Fields in a trade up to 7 or 8 if they wanted to go up and get Fields. And I mean, knowing Justin and rooting for him the last couple of years, I hope that he I want him with the 49ers. I think that's the best chance to succeed. I also think that the Panthers would give you a chance to succeed because I think Matt Rule's going to be there a long time. And then I would say Patriots would be right there with Josh McDaniels. I do. Not a lot of weapons, but organizational stability is certainly there. The only thing I don't know about the Patriots is how welcoming would Cam Newton be to all of it.
Right. It might not be welcoming at all, or he might not have a choice, in these cases.
Right.
It's not like he signed a deal that makes him unimpeachable in their organization and what they think of him. I also find it odd that would be out about the Patriots if that were actually true. The Patriots don't seem like an organization to me that would let a desire to move up for a quarterback be that well known. But there are some awful, worst-kept secrets every year at the Combine. The Patriots have never been a part of a worst-kept secret, often because they picked way too late in the draft. But it doesn't strike me that that's something that their organization would like to be a part of in terms of worst-kept secrets. I do think that the Patriots, though, are a team that could be looking for a quarterback, figuring we're never going to pick, this. We won't be this bad again. That's our thought process. Let's go get it. So that could happen. That was the Niners' thought process. That's how they landed where they did. We'll see. That's why this draft is, to me, as just an NFL fan, as a football fan, this is actually a pretty fun, intriguing draft. It's just not for us personally with the Browns, which means we're relevant, and we're poised for big things,
right?
Which is a great thing. Yes.
Yeah, for us, it's picking a number out of a hat.
Yes.
At 26, because you just don't know. It's not like you're targeting anybody specifically. Well, certainly not as Browns fans. Obviously, the brain trust is. A lot of rumor about Julio Jones potentially being on the table as a trade. The Falcons in big trouble with their cap. And he's coming. He's been injured, been banged up. He's 32 years of age. When I saw this, I just thought, just find a way to get him to Green Bay. I mean, that's it. Put him in Green Bay. Let him play with Aaron Rodgers. That's what I would say. Go there.
It would be great, but okay, let's just take a step back. If we're not drafting a quarterback at 4 and we're playing to win now, how do we get better as a football team without Julio Jones?
Well, it would certainly put a pretty big needle in the balloon of Kyle Pitts, and adding him to their overall talent and giving Matt Ryan a great chance to succeed with all these offensive weapons. If you trade Julio Jones and you take at 4, then does that open you up to taking a quarterback at 4 if that's what you do? And
if you were doing that, do you want to bring in a quarterback and take away somebody who would be very good to them? Now, I guess you're taking a quarterback saying he's not playing this year because it's going to be Matt Ryan, but now you've taken one of Matt Ryan's great weapons away. The only thing that makes sense to me is that if you were doing that and then you're drafting a young receiver early in the draft as well and getting something for him that you think helps your team. So maybe they're saying, look, we want Jamar Chase to be our next Julio Jones. We trade Julio. We get something for him. We draft Jamar Chase. Now we've got Chase and Ridley. Step right in. We haven't gotten any worse. We've gotten younger. We've got more money now, and we got whatever we got back as compensation for Julio. See, I think the Patriots are a team to watch. Let's say they move up for a quarterback, but I could see them doing a swap where they try to get a big-name receiver from somebody because that's the one thing they don't have, and that's the way they unload Gilmore. Because remember, they're
pair them,
like Julio, Gilmore, and then some little things around the edge.
Sure.
And so if you're the Falcons, say, okay, we just got better. We got a number 1 corner. We use the 4th pick now on Jamar Chase to replace Julio in this offense. Are we better set up now for not only today but also for the future?
Yeah.
And the Patriots.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, to your earlier point, that's why this is a fascinating week. Because there's a lot of cards that can be played here for teams around the league. And there's a lot of things that you're trying to manage. And you have teams that have to decide if we're going now, are we trying to get younger quickly? There's a lot of that out there. And Atlanta sitting there at number 4. I mean, when's Atlanta? I mean, you're picking 4. That's pretty good. If you put Pitts on that team, to me, if you put Pitts on that team with Julio Jones and Ridley, that's a lot to deal with from a defense.
Yes.
I mean, I would take Pitts and forget about it.
It certainly is. Yeah, and you run him and Hayden Hurst in 2 tight end sets. You have play action, then you have 2 receivers that can't be covered. Yeah, there's a lot to it. It does seem to be a little bit of smoke around Stephon Gilmore, and my guess is anything that would happen would be pre-draft with Gilmore, and then also with the Patriots looking for a receiver. So,
yeah,
maybe that's something that can happen, whether it be with Julio or another bigger name receiver around the league.
Could very well be something to pay attention to. The 2021 NFL Draft happens Thursday through Saturday right here in Cleveland. You can be a part of the action at the NFL Draft Experience taking place outside First Energy Stadium. The NFL Draft Experience, a free football celebration open to families and fans of all ages. Space is limited. Reserve your tickets today via the NFL One Pass app. Coming up next, your mock of the day from Peter King. He has us trading up and drafting a linebacker. We'll tell you which one and how it works, and if we're a fan of it, coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Hey there, friends. Beau Bishop from my great friends at Northeast Factory Direct. Probably looking at your kitchen right now and thinking, boy, that thing is a little outdated. It's the perfect time to upgrade, guys, and you do so. You go to Northeast Factory Direct. They got high-quality, name-brand furniture and hot tubs for about half the price at the fancy retail stores. But also, Northeast gets you those high-quality kitchen cabinets for 60 to 70% less than at the expensive kitchen remodeling stores. And it's just so easy. You make an appointment, you bring in basic measurements, they're going to walk you through everything. The best part is the appointment and the design are free. Northeast Factory Direct cuts out all of the costs associated with traditional stores, so you can buy nice stuff at really incredible prices. They also have 0% financing available, so if you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen, it is simple. Go to northeastfactorydirect.com and schedule your appointment today. Did you see what Kay Adams was wearing on Good Morning Football this morning, boys? Did you see that?
I did not. I was at the dentist.
Oh, that's right. Well, I thought maybe you're on social.
I am on social.
Gibby, did you see it? Did you see what Kay had on?
I did, and I'd like one because
Well,
clearly
the world would.
Yeah. I'm not quite
So-
sure where it came from, but
I think we know
if our
where it
equipment
came
manager
from.
of the year wanted to drop a few off, I would.
I think
there's a bottle.
that,
in
so
it
when
for
did
you.
that? There's whatever bottle he wants. I got a
she's-
copious supply.
She's got the Stefanski hoodie.
It's the Stefanski hoodie in black with the elf. I mean, what are we doing? It's a
unbelievable.
beautiful. Now, this is one, and I just want to clear this up because I've had a lot of people on social like tweet her, where'd you get this? Why can I get one? I get one. It's because they don't make them.
That's right.
They don't exist.
Nope.
That's why. So you can't go to anywhere. You can't go to the team shop. Can't go down to First Energy. You can't go to anywhere. And NFL shop, Fanatics, none of it. Can't get it. Not available. So this one is made in-house is the reality of that. And that's the only way that you get one of those. And so that's why we have the greatest equipment staff in all of the universe, led by Mr. Brad. And that's where that came from. My guess is that was a Nate call to the bullpen.
I was going to say, they've
That's
got
my
a pretty
guess.
good pipeline here. Remember, Nate was the first one to ever wear the color rush.
I
He
do.
had a so, yeah, they've got a pretty good.
He was the first one to wear the Beckham, wasn't he? The first
yeah,
Odell.
right after
was
Odell. He had
his.
the first Odell. Yes.
The ambassador
right.
got the second, but those were the first
Those
two
were
that
the
were
first
out.
two.
Were those? Yeah. So save your time. Those
Right.
aren't available,
Not there.
but they're beautiful. They are beautiful.
Boy, I would love it.
Who wouldn't? I mean, it's as good as it gets. But you got to be careful with the elf. Little taste here and there. That's not. You don't throw that around.
No, right. You don't make
Yeah.
it. It's
Beautiful,
not
very good.
commonplace,
But
it's special.
No. Very, very special. All right. So this is from Peter King. He did his mock. Now, what I read this morning. What I'm unaware of is if this is what he would do if he was the GM for every team, or if this is how he thinks it goes. My guess is it's a little combination of both, since he didn't specify. He does have us moving up to pick number 21 with the Colts. The Colts would get our pick at 26, our extra third rounder, the 91st overall in the third round, and we would take Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the linebacker out of Notre Dame, who of course did not play linebacker, not a snap of it, at Notre Dame. So he writes, so everyone wants sideline-to-sideline playmaking ability of Devin White, which of course, Z and I were on him in his draft class. Wanted to ride the steed down Lou Groza. Didn't happen. Owusu-Koramoah isn't Devin White, 15 pounds lighter, but he has some of White's traits. The Golden Domer is rangy. Played a rover position in the Irish D, made first-team All-American last season, dropping in coverage, rushing, and being a complete playmaker on the second level of defense. It's right about the area of the draft that should be picked, and I could see Green Bay, New York being interested here. I think playing behind Miles and Clowney and the Browns' interior front, he'd be free to roam and be a playmaker in year one. He would be one of those guys that the elite traits are there, and you say, you know what, I don't know what we're going to do with him, but he's going to be on the field, but just let him make plays. Sort it out once he gets here. And that would be the idea, I think, there.
I don't think that we're doing that and giving up a third-round pick for the right to do that.
I don't either, but that would be the thinking.
No, right. And I think you would say, okay, let's let this fall. If this comes to us at 26, great. If not, we'll make another move, whether that be a trade down, a trade out, a wide receiver, something. I would be very surprised if the Browns gave up one of those third-round picks in what should be a pretty good section of this draft to go up in the first. I would be surprised.
But
doesn't mean it won't
as
happen.
we've talked about, as we've talked about, though, we have 9 picks, and we don't think we're going to take all of them. So what do you think that would mean? That you would, instead of moving up in this draft, you would push picks into the next into 22,
Yeah.
23, those type of things. Yeah.
And I think you could I do think you could move up, but I'm guessing I would want to move one of my 2 4s, not one of my 2 3s, and probably then I'm wanting to move up. My guess would be, take a 3 and a 4 to get into like a low 2 or to get into an earlier 3. That seems to make more sense to me than necessarily, a 1 and a 3 to move up 5 spots and take, JOK, who I think if he falls to 26 is definitely in play. All the corners are gone early here. I mean, real early.
Yes. Real early, yep.
I think the last corner.
Newsom's like 15 or something. He's
Newsom's
gone
16, yeah, and Raiders take Farley 17.
Yeah, so that's it.
I think they would love to move back and turn 26 into an early 2 and pick up something early in next year's draft. I think that would be I could see that on the table. I won't be surprised by anything because I guarantee nothing will happen that they didn't plan for or want to happen. Do you know what I mean? If they moved up, that was meant they've all along targeted him and said we wanted to go do this. It would still be a surprise to me, not to say that it can't happen. It would be definitely a little bit of a surprise to me. So that
would be an aggressive play for a position that we don't. I don't know that we don't value the way that I think everybody in the rest of the world thinks we value it. I think we like who we have, and
and we have 6.
I think it's a big price to move up to take somebody who is, he's kind of like, Isaiah Simmons a little bit without having all the physical traits.
Better
but I mean,
cover
he's basically, he's basically a bigger. He's kind of a safety, is what he is, really.
Yes.
So that's that would be a lot like a safety trying to be a linebacker. That's a lot to move up to draft that, to me. Now, if his mock would have said Caleb Farley falls to 21 or something like that, okay, maybe that's easier for me to understand. This would be a lot to give up to take a person like this.
Right. Remember, let's go through a couple things. We've talked to Joe Woods on this show in the last week.
Yep.
We've spoken with Andrew Berry. We've told you for months that the Browns like their linebackers better than the outside world does. Joe Woods came on here and talked about how much he does like the linebackers. The expectations, you've got Walker here now. The expectations for Jacob Phillips in year 2. The evolution of Sione Takitaki. You bring back Malcolm Smith, who's a sub-package coverage linebacker that they know and trust. We're going to play 400 snaps, maybe more, of 3 safeties, which means the linebackers coming off the field. So I think we're overstocked, honestly, at linebacker as it sits right now. Now, you don't draft based on your needs today because your needs tomorrow might not be your needs today, but you have to be planning for all of these things down the line. That just JOK to the Browns wouldn't shock me. Trading up to take JOK would surprise me.
Fair. And well articulated on your side.
Well, thank you.
If we were going to give the 91st pick overall to trade out of 26 up to 21, is corner the only thing that you would say, there's a corner they love? Is there another position that we would do that with?
Maybe if there's, I would say a Devonta Smith is falling because
or Jalen Waddle, somebody fell.
Somebody fell because they're scared of his size. Maybe a receiver like that. Yeah. Other thing, real quickly, I just read from Adam Schefter. He's chiming in all the Julio stuff. If the Falcons trade Julio post June 1st,
right,
they save $15 million on the cap. If they trade Julio Jones before June 1st, it's a $23 million cap hit. So he's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere soon. No, not at all.
No.
All right. Good stuff there. Don't miss the Browns draft preview show tonight at 7. Between 7 and 8, University Hospital's Cleveland Browns Radio Network. Andrew Berry will join. Dane Brugler as well with Ken Carmen and Z. It's all in advance of this weekend's draft. Did you have one more quick point, buddy? Did I see a hand up?
No. Well, just it's very interesting. So Pelissero lays it out even further. He says if he's on the roster, it's 23.5 cap number in 2021, 15 in cash. Traded before June 1st, 23.25 dead money this year. Traded after June 1st, 7.75 dead this year, 15 dead next year. So the dead, it saves him 15 this year, but does go on to next year. And then, they do creative things there. They push all these things all around. But I think the NFL, I think you should be able to, once the league year starts, that should be the thing. Like if we want to trade somebody this season.
That should be the cutoff.
Yeah, what's June 1st?
Yeah, randomly June 1st, yeah. Strange. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. That seems odd to me.
Yeah.
Once the new league year hits, then that's the deadline. Should be the way that
I would
go.
think. Right.
Yes. Speaking of corners, Z will give you his top 5 corner prospects that make the most sense for the Browns at 26. We will do that at the top of the hour. Daniel Jeremiah with his top 150 mock prospect rankings out as well. Matt Waddle will join us as well. So you have all of those things to look forward to, which is nice. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, second hour Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau here for my great friends at Perfect Power Wash. And this spring, bolster your home's defense by going on the offense with the pros at Perfect Power Wash. Their proven process will safely and effectively neutralize the algae, mold, and mildew currently wreaking havoc on your home's exterior and provide a league-leading defense against further damage. Join 100,000 satisfied customers by making the right choice for your home and go with the pros at Perfect Power Wash, the consensus #1 pick in professional power washing. Call the pros now, 888-860-WASH. That's 888-860-WASH. Using the promo code BEAU, you can save 10% on your Perfect Power Wash. You had it this weekend. My neighbor Courtney and Dan, they just had it. They have it over the weekend as well. Thrilled.
Do it. The best. The best.
The best. Nothing but the best, Clark. Absolutely. All right, how did you do this? So we're going to go over your top 5 quarterback prospects that make the most sense for the Browns. Did you do this based on guys who you think could be there, or the top 5 as you see them?
Guys that could be there. So 26 and then guys into the second and third round. And as always, I'll give you more than 5. Like, I won't put Patrick Surtain on this list.
This is why you are you, because there's next level there. Why would I? Of course Patrick Surtain would be number 1. He's not going to be there, man. He's not being there at 26. So there's no reason for us to talk about him like he will. So that's a good job out of you. I'm not surprised. It's how you roll. Continue.
J.C. Horn probably won't be there either. I don't think. Though there was one mock that I saw where he was there.
Really?
But it was a while ago.
Okay.
It was a while ago. So I don't think he will be there. But if he were, son of Joe Horn, long and athletic, best true man corner in the draft last year, 7 games, opted out and led the team with 8 passes defense, 2 interceptions, a strong physical press man corner in the mold of Aqib Talib per Dane Brugler. And don't forget, Aqib Talib was pretty darn good for Joe Woods in Denver, so you could see why that would be a natural connection. He's somebody that if he fell and he was there at 21 and the Browns traded up to get J.C. Horn, that would not surprise me.
Did you see the I can't remember if it was on NFL Network or ESPN, one of the two, did like his pro day at South Carolina, and I was unaware he was Joe Horn's kid. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So did you happen to see what he ran the 40 in at his pro day?
4.4?
No, boxer shorts.
Oh, what he ran it in legitimately as in his clothing.
What he was legitimately wearing. And Joe Horn goes, "What's up with the shorts, man?" Afterwards. And apparently it was some sort of endorsement. I don't know what it was, but that was the genesis of it. Was there some sort of endorsement to it? But he ran his 40 in boxer shorts.
He's been doing a lot of the media around. He's going to be gone. He's going to be gone. I think it's wishful thinking. Yeah. I tried to at one point put that in the wishful thinking to the Browns. I don't think he's going to be available. The 2 guys that I think are potentially available to the Browns at 26. Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech. He was the top corner on many boards, Pro Football Focus. Numerous other experts had him as the number 1 corner. Opted out of 2020. Great size, 6'1", 207. In 2019, first-team All-ACC, 16 passes defense, 4 interceptions. He's got 29 passes defense in 28 career games in college, and he was a high school quarterback. So he understands coverages. He understands route concepts. He understands what people are trying to do to you. Pro Bowl upside is pretty much what everybody thinks, but here's the kicker. Had a microdiscectomy on his back in May, has not been able to work out pre-draft, stock falling a little as a result. Now, the word out of Indy was that he's fine, but he could potentially be somebody that falls. A lot of people think this is a top 10 talent in this draft. Now, the Browns at 26, do you take a risk on a top 10 talent and bring him into a corner group that has struggled to stay healthy already?
I would.
Sure.
If Caleb Farley was there at 26, sign me up. Like you sprint, I would sprint to get it and roll the dice. I think the upside is such that you would have to do it. And I think it's one we can afford to take the risk on it.
Same. Because as we know, you're good, but it sounds good. So that's one where you wonder what the medicals, because if there weren't any medical issues, I don't think there's any chance that he's there at 26.
I would concur.
All right, that brings us to Greg Newsome, which is the one that feels the most likely to maybe be on the board for the Browns. Some of the mocks I've done, he's been there. But we're also seeing ones like today, he's gone at 17. Newsome, first team All Big Ten in 2020, 10 passes defense each of the last 2 seasons. Last year led the FBS with a 15.7 passer rating against, allowed only 1 completion of more than 10 yards. I I feel like it's been written multiple places by people who do a significant amount of research. I still find that hard to believe that that's true in college football, that he allowed one completion of more than 10 yards in the air all season.
Pretty remarkable, yeah.
So he said he's excellent, both man and zone. He
But
thrives in off
that's,
coverages.
to be fair,
yeah,
that the Big Ten did not play a full slate, and I think he only played a half against Ohio State. I know he didn't play the full game against the Buckeyes in the championship game. So he did not have a full slate of games to go against. But still, really impressive.
Very impressive. As I said, he's great in both. He thrives in off coverages. We play a lot of off coverage on the outside from time to time. Great mirroring skills, movement skills, 6 foot 192, runs a 4.3 840. Now we're going to get into the next group. Could some of these guys in the minds of the Browns be in play at 26? Or these guys that maybe you look at in the second round, or you look at moving up in the second round to get? Asante Samuel Jr., name's familiar, son of NFL starter Asante Samuel. 24 passes defense, 4 interceptions in his last 20 games. He opted out after 8 games this year. He had 9 passes defense, 3 picks, 5'10", 180, 4.38. Small but fluid athlete who played with confidence. Great ball skills. Dane Brugler says Jair Alexander is the comp, who's been a great corner for the Green Bay Packers. Says he can play inside or outside. Some have the book on Samuel that he plays inside only. Others say he can do both. What do the Browns think? I don't think the Browns would take a slot guy at 26, exclusively a slot guy. But it's also a very important position, and they think Troy Hill can play outside, along with Greedy. And so maybe that's somebody that you look at there. He's an intriguing one to be sure. And I've seen him go in the first round in mocks, and I've seen him going all the way into the mid, second quartile or third quartile of the second round. So a lot of variance on him. But, he's got the pedigree. Then there are 2 kids from Georgia, Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes. Campbell has all the high-end traits. You talk about speed, size, but didn't quite have the production that matched his traits. He lacks polish, lacks consistency. Stokes, 4.3, 640, says he's got a great ability to cover, like William Jackson III, who's a former first-round pick of the Bengals, who's been a very good corner in the league. So those 2 are interesting. Stay in the SEC. Kelvin Joseph, first-round talent and athleticism. Again, production didn't match it necessarily, though played very well at Kentucky a year ago. 4.2, 940, blazing. We had somebody, though, on with us last week who said that there were some off-field things with him.
Right, which I'm unaware of, and I'm not going to chase it down. But
same.
Yeah.
But again, talent, speed. All 3 of the names I just gave you, talent, speed. And then there are 2 more that are a little different. Elijah Molden, slot corner out of Washington, which has produced a lot of good corners in the NFL. Son of the former NFL quarterback Alex Molden. Now, he gets honey badger nickel comparisons in that he's a nickel, safety, physical, smart, great character, great teammate, great work ethic, all of these things. A lot of people think he might end up going higher than the draft media thinks. So that's something we'll keep an eye on. But would he make sense for the Browns there, knowing that he's not really an outside corner? Or at least that's what people say. And then one more. Ooh, boy. Melifonwu out of Syracuse. 6'3", big, long outside corner. We play a lot of cover 3, so he's kind of like a Brandon Browner in Seattle back in the day.
Okay.
6'3", size, natural ball skills, good movement skills. He's a guy that a lot of people think go in the second round. Would be different than anything we have from a size standpoint. But we've drafted some big corners before. The big corners, a lot of you hear about these guys, doesn't always pan out. So you have a lot of variance in size and in flavor and in shape and in role, outside only, inside outside, inside safety.
Right.
The Browns' evaluation, it wouldn't surprise me if the Browns come out of this draft with a guy that they like on the outside and a guy they like on the inside.
Would it surprise you if they went corner?
No.
Right.
No, it would be a significant investment in that position, and that would set off real alarm bells in my mind about what is really going on with Greedy. I think if they think Greedy is going to play and be back, I don't think you go corner.
Yeah. Yep.
But I wouldn't be surprised if 2 corners are drafted. Like, I'd love to take a shot on Sean Wade. If you get an outside corner early,
I like that.
I'd love to take a shot on Sean Wade
in
the 3rd or 4th round. Sure. Why not?
Yeah. And he honestly might be better off as a, kind of a guy who can cover the slot and a safety.
Yep.
Might be the way that he projects by the time you get there. If you want to insert one of these corners to pick 21, where Peter King had us making the move, who would be the one that to you you'd go, if he was there and that deal was to be made, that makes sense?
For one of these corners? I think
if that Colts deal was made and it's a third-round pick, which one do you think would be the one you'd go, okay, I get it?
Horn,
yeah.
I think people love Horn. I think Farley, it depends on your medicals. Because if you think he's a top 10 guy, I mean, Pro Football Focus had him as the number 1 corner in this draft. So if you think if that's your evaluation of him as well, sure. Noose, any of them. Because again, it comes down to what are your evaluation buckets? Do you think that the gap between Surtain, Horn, Farley, Newsome is wide? And I've talked to some people who do think that it's a wide gap. I've talked to others who think Asante Samuel's right there. I've talked to people who love Elijah Molden. I've talked to people who think that Tyson Campbell and Kelvin Joseph might be the most talented corners in this class.
Yep.
So there's a lot of variation there. And then Melifonwu is just a totally different breed altogether. I don't think we're trading up 21 for him, but I'm saying maybe they say this is the size we want out here. And we're going to just be big and long on fast all over the field.
Yeah.
So a lot of ways to go. The good news for the Browns is I think that between 26 and 51, there are going to be significant, corners available that you could be looking at, or 26 to 59 that you will say, okay, yeah, I like this guy. Wherever I'm going to go, maybe I'm moving up, maybe I'm moving back, but in that range is where I think maybe one of the top 4 as we've described them are, but I think all these other ones are going to go in there. I think they're all going to go in the early, mid, second round.
Yeah. There's a ton of those guys. You went over a bunch from there, and there's some more that still fit that bill as well. So there's a lot of talent. It's a good job out of you on the breakdown. If you were injured at work, call the Workers' Compensation Lawyers, 1-800-ELK Ohio for a free case review. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, his top 150 prospects list is out this morning as everyone is gearing up. We will go over it coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop for my great friends at Weather Seal Home Services. Do you need a roof replacement? Would you like to replace your roof for the final time? Well, that's the benefit of choosing metal roof from Weather Seal. Metal roof technology, material, styles, and colors, they've improved significantly. They are beautiful, nearly indestructible, and affordable, especially with Weather Seal. Plus, with new metal roof technology, Weather Seal includes a 6-inch gutter upgrade and up to 7 years, 0 interest. That's right, guys, 7 years, 0 interest. Call my guys, 877-351-SEAL, or visit WeatherSealHomeservices.com. It is draft week. Lots to be excited about. By the way, remember all of the conversation we had about the 10-day forecast?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You can't pay attention to those things, man. You really can't. You're looking at 2 days out. That's where you need to be. So tomorrow when you look at the forecast, you'll have a pretty good idea what you're headed for the weekend. Tomorrow. You can't do it a week ago. It's not going to be any good.
I hope we get a change.
I know. I mean, because today would have been perfect.
Today, tomorrow, Wednesday. Wednesday
Tomorrow.
at the end is going to start to get in some rain, but 81. I mean, we're going to go from 81 to 52 in 3 days, which is crazy. But that's
spring here, man.
Yeah, by the way, yesterday was 40.
It was cold, too. That's a cold 40 with that mist.
And the wind?
There's so much humidity in the air, and then the wind.
Yeah,
it cut through you. That was cold. That
was
really cold yesterday. I can't believe you played. What a job out of you.
Yeah, it was.
Did you have
conditions.
some? Do you have the rain gear on, or how'd you stay warm?
No, I was bundled up pretty good and had a beanie on and everything, but it still felt cold out there. To be honest, it still felt.
Yeah.
It still was not warm.
Yeah, it was difficult to keep warm. This Daniel Jeremiah, as the draft, of course, will be here on Thursday. So this is his top 150 players, his prospect list. It is quarterback heavy at the top, as these typically are. It is Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Kyle Pitts goes number 2 on his list. Jamar Chase is 3. Zach Wilson, 4. Jalen Waddle is 5. Devontae Smith, 6. Trey Lance, 7. I'll just do the top 10. Justin Fields is 8 on this list. Patrick Surtain is 9. And Rashawn Slater, the offensive tackle out of Northwestern, instead of Penei Sewell, is actually 11. Slater is 10. As you look at this list, I guess what's interesting to me is, if we were to say that 4 of the top 10 college football players entering this year's draft from a sure thing perspective are quarterbacks, that seems high to me. As hard as it is to land on quarterbacks, it seems really, really high. Like, to me, and I'm not necessarily saying that this is a person, but just as an example, like Micah Parsons seems like that's a safer bet that he will have a 10-year NFL career than, say, Trey Lance, just for argument's sake. Or J.C. Horn would have a better chance of having a 10-year career than Trey Lance or Justin Fields. It's just so hard to project quarterbacks.
Yes, but
it's really difficult.
I think it's just the positional importance that puts those up there. Some interesting names of note to Browns fans. J.C. Horn, 14. J.O.K. is 15 on this list. Trevon Moehrig is 16, the safety out of TCU. He's got Greg Rousseau, who's been linked to the Browns at times, at 18 overall, so pretty good there. Jalen Phillips, 21. Caleb Farley, 22. Jamin Davis, 23. He's got Javonte Williams at 25. He's a riser, kid out of North Carolina. He says overall Williams is a complete player and could emerge as the best running back in this class. Wide receiver Elijah Moore, 26, where the Browns draft. 27 is Greg Newsome. Kadarius Toney, 28. This surprised me a little bit. Azeez Ojulari, 30th. Jason Owe, 31. Mac Jones, 32.
Well, that's where I would have been. Mac Jones is somewhere down there, and he writes about Mac Jones. Average size, athleticism for the quarterback position. He's operating out of the shotgun pistol, showing incredible accuracy, efficiency, and poise. High-effort thrower with slightly above-average arm strength. He's at his best on touch throws where he can anticipate and place the ball on the proper shoulder of his target. He shows toughness to hang in versus pressure, although he rarely faced it with an elite offensive line. Isn't much of a threat or runner. He lacks the twitch consistently to escape and buy extra time. Jones should become a starting NFL quarterback, but his lack of twitch and athleticism will limit the playbook with the way the the game is trending. So if you follow that and you're to believe Jeremiah knows what he's talking about, it's hard for me to imagine 3 to the 49ers with those traits.
Same. Exactly. It's just a newer model of,
I like how you
family
put
sedan.
that, a new model of what you have.
That's what it
Right.
is.
You've already got it. You know what this is like.
Right, and you want something different, obviously. It's not like you just want a Jimmy G, but he's got to be always healthy. I mean, and there's no guarantee anybody's going to be healthy. Real quickly, another one that was interesting to me and kind of in that range where I was talking about, Asante Samuel Jr., 39. He says, overall high football IQ, skill set to start outside or in the slot. So that's 39. He's a little lower on Rashad Bateman. He's got him 41. Christian Barmore, because I've seen so many people on Brown's Twitter that are, now we cut Richardson, we've got to draft Barmore. He has him 43rd overall. Young, raw, and talented, boom-bust aspect to his evaluation.
Yeah. That's hard. The Alabama defensive linemen, it's really hard to project those guys.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. It's been difficult through the years to project those guys. It's very, very hard. He is not real keen on Bateman at 41, which is, I use him consistently just as an example under the assumption that people here are aware of who he is.
Yep.
So he's the example I use. It's not necessarily saying that I think he's a perfect fit or anything like that. He's just an example of a receiver with certainly some elite traits that I think people around here would be aware of. But he doesn't like him much at 41, but does say he did have some concentration drops in 2020. Both Bateman and Rondale Moore, who are unique Big Ten players in terms of the skill set they provide, I think both will transition well to the NFL. Both of those guys were opt-outs. So they opted out, and in the case of both guys, they opted back in. Because remember how convoluted the Big Ten schedule was?
Right.
And we're going to play. Are we going to play or not going to play? So they both opted out. And then Moore opted in and then back out. So he then bailed again. I can't remember if Bateman did that too, but they both were out, back in, and then Moore opted back out. So that's, when you talk about the inconsistencies and concentration in 2020, how much of that is just the circumstances you were playing under, which were quite extreme.
Agreed, and that makes, again, tough for the evaluation here, and that's one of the things that people are going to be contending with when you didn't have all that much tape, to your point. And the Big Ten, I don't think it did a lot of its guys any favors with the way that things were handled and operated for them. Some of the corners that we were just talking about in the last segment, Stokes, he has 50, Campbell, 51. Those are the two Georgia corners. Aaron Robinson is a name I probably should have mentioned as well. Redshirt senior from UCF who transferred, I want to say, from Alabama down there. He's got him 55. Kelvin Joseph, Elijah Molden, 60, and then Kelvin Joseph, with no explanation for it, but he's got him down in the early 80s, 84th overall. So, again, that's the variance that you see and the valuation, for or that different teams will have that will change, that are going to affect where guys go on draft day. And that's why you have the divergence of draft boards around 32 teams in the NFL.
Yeah, and it's why, when you think about, everybody kind of knows the sure things. Where this thing gets interesting is how you view the players. And I saw a thing going around Nick Saban telling his guys, you see this video going around where he talks about and but are the two most important words for NFL draft prospects, and he tells his guys, he says, you're going to have a corner who tackles, is rangy, has the physical traits, great explosiveness, has an ability to close on the ball, and he's a great teammate, a leader, good guy in the community, graduates. Or you can use the same traits, and he does it better than I'm doing it right now, but you get the point. Same exact physical traits, and then but had a drug test, didn't do this, didn't do that, didn't do this, and that's the difference. He goes, it's the ands and buts. That's the difference in the draft, and he's right. And some teams may not be aware of all the buts.
Right.
And that's the problem. That's where you get some of these wide swings in the way that teams evaluate players.
Right, and this year without the combine, I'm guessing that maybe things are a little bit, there's less information being shared around.
Right.
That's why it is going to be fun. But I do think the Browns, as I said, for what we believe their top needs to be at receiver and corner. And somebody tweeted me, what are you counting out Greedy Williams for? I'm not. I think Greedy's coming back, but we got to be honest about it. Greedy did not play last year. Denzel has started 12 games in every year that he's been in the league. That's a quarter of the season. That's a quarter of the season. Our top 2 outside guys after those 2 from a year ago are gone. Mitch played 1,200 snaps for you. Kevin Johnson, former first pick, gone. Troy Hill in. He's more of a slot guy. So can he play outside? Yes, but I think it would be foolish. You need to have guys, and you've got MJ Stewart, you've got guys here, but I think that still is a big need for you on the outside just to be safe and to drive competition.
Yes, he missed an entire season. I mean,
Right.
Greedy missed an entire season with a nerve issue. Like, this isn't an ACL.
And he missed
that can go any number of ways. He missed games as a rookie as well.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and so it's not a shot at Greedy. I mean, we're as big a fans of Greedy as anybody. It's just the reality of you have to protect this football team's long-term health by making sure that you're covered. You can't be in a situation we were in last year in the secondary. And I don't think Andrew Berry will have us in that position again.
Yep.
And that's his job, is to make sure that we're not. 2021 NFL Draft happens this Thursday through Saturday. You can be a part of the action, the NFL Draft Experience, taking place outside First Energy Stadium. The NFL Draft Experience is a free football celebration open to families and fans of all ages. Space is limited, though. Reserve your tickets today via the NFL One Pass app. Coming up next, he is the creator of the rookie scouting portfolio. He is Matt Waldman. He is very, very good at this, and he will join us coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Browns Daily.
You're up.
On a Monday edition, Draft Week Monday edition.
Let's go. You're
Can
going.
you hear
You're
me,
good.
Z?
Yeah, I got you.
You can
Loud
hear me?
and clear.
Am I on? We're good?
Dulcet tones.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good. Fantastic. Because what we want to make sure that Matt can hear us, because he's the best. Matt Waldman joining us, creative and creator of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. Get the 2021 Rookie Scouting Portfolio today. It is an absolute must for the draft fanatic. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Waldman. Matt, thank you so much for taking your time and giving us a little bit of it today. Let's just start before we get into our specific needs and the corners and some of the things that we think we could have an interest in at 26. But let's just start with the quarterbacks, because obviously everything has been around number 3. But one thing Nathan and I were talking about earlier in the show was it seems like there's really no dialogue at all about, or even questioning of Zach Wilson going number 2, that it's just known, it's accepted, and no one's questioning that pick. Is that as much of a no-brainer for you as it appears it to be for the Jets?
Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer for the Jets, it seems like, but no, I mean, I'm not a particular huge fan of that selection. I think that Zach Wilson is probably a little bit overrated in terms of what he has to offer a team. So spending that high on a player like him who has some mechanical issues, who has some issues with reading coverage where he doesn't make the optimal decisions and often makes the tougher decisions and gets away with some errors that I don't think he's going to get away with the NFL, because he tends to try and target coverage that's playing off, where in the NFL, they're going to be a step faster and they're going to jump a lot of routes that he got away with. So this is a guy that can be a starter in the league. I think he can develop into being a solid player with a good team around him. But he's going to a team that doesn't have much of an offensive line and has a new coaching staff and young receivers, and this isn't going to be a great support system for him. And you're going to see some of the struggles that Baker went through, early on before Cleveland got their line together and got the system in place. The Jets have the system in place that will fit well, but there are some guys here who could extend and make plays better with their legs and who can do a little bit more in terms of throwing with accuracy in ways that I don't think that Wilson does all that greatly. So if he can make it through the first year or two, might be fine. It'd be a good fit for him in terms of the offensive type, but may not be the ideal fit for the Jets.
Matt, I know you talked about, and you just put this out there in the RSP, the reader Q&A. You talked about quarterback team fit. So we are fascinated by this draft. We're happy we're not looking at quarterbacks, obviously, with Baker here, but number 3 with the Niners. Who do you think is the best fit for the 49ers? Who would you be taking?
Well, if all the personality stuff and leadership things check out, long term, I think the best guy is Trey Lance. And I think that Trey Lance is the type of guy who, I've been talking about him for more than a year. This guy reminds me a lot of Steve McNair. It's a player that I've kind of referenced in him since this past summer. He's great in the drop-back game. He gives you the running element, but he's someone that can win from the pocket. You still have to win from the pocket in the NFL, even if you create outside of the pocket. But at the same time, Justin Fields would be just fine. To me, the whole Justin Fields or Mac Jones thing is really, it's about your preference, because a lot of people just don't understand that guys with high-end conceptual ability, they still can have further upside to access. And when you look at Mac Jones, his accuracy and his ability to read defenses and make tough plays, there's still going to be room for growth for him, that he's going to get better, even though he's not the great athlete. So nobody likes picking the guy who has the dad bod, basically, at quarterback position early in the draft. So, people are looking at, why wouldn't you just take Justin Fields? And Fields certainly can do a lot of great things too, and be able to create as he's continuing to learn the game, even if he has to go off structure a little bit more. But for both of them, they eliminate or make, things difficult on defenses with their skills. They're just coming from opposite directions. But I think a lot of people fail to see that in this either-or society, as opposed to either one could be fine.
And, Matt, that's what I was going to ask you, because there was reporting today that the Niners are down to Jones or Lance at number 3. And to me, that is a very different proposition. Like, those two seem like, as you just put it, you can go about it in two different ways. Does that seem to add up to you, that a team would be deciding between those two when the skill sets are so different?
Absolutely, because what they're looking at is really, I don't think the skill sets are that different with those two. They might be a little different with Fields and Jones. But with Lance, what people don't understand is that they look at the lack of production as a passer and don't understand that this is a guy that operated a short to deep offense where the coaches instructed him to make reads of the tight end and the running back first. So when you actually see him throw deep and do it so well, it's often his third and fourth read, which just gives you an idea that this guy's pretty advanced in terms of his ability to process the field in the same way that Jones is. The difference is that Jones might be a little better at maneuvering the pocket and throwing receivers open, whereas that Lance shows flashes of that, but he's going to have to get a little bit better. But at the same time, what he can do with his legs and create gives him that element to buy that time to develop into an even better pocket player. So it's more about, do you think you can win now as a team with Mac Jones and maybe forego a little bit of that athletic upside that Lance is going to provide? Or do you feel like Lance can give you a shot right now, or with Garoppolo as a bit of a bridge for the first 6 to 8 games, and then put Lance in there, and he can take your team to that next level within the next, 8 to 16 games in terms of experience that he gets? I would go with Lance. That's the guy I've been kind of touting for a long time. So that's the first I heard that the Niners are actually officially saying they're narrowing it down between those two guys. So I'm kind of glad to hear that.
Talking with Matt Waldman. And Matt, let's take a turn now for the Browns. And quarterback's not going to be on our radar. Running back won't be early either. As Browns fans have long memories. We all remember how much you loved Nick Chubb a few years ago and thought he was the best in that draft. And he certainly is doing a good job, I would say, to prove you right thus far. So my question is going to be at the wide receiver position for you. And Chubb went early, second round. The Browns picked 26th. They pick again, obviously, in the second round. Who's somebody at wide receiver that's your Nick Chubb for this year that could be in that, late first into the second round range, or if there is one?
There is one. Absolutely is one. And he's my number 3 player on the wide receiver board. And that's Rashad Bateman out of Minnesota. When you look at Bateman and you realize, I think a lot of people look at last year and they kind of written him off a little bit or downgraded him. Well, they forget that he had COVID and he lost a ton of weight and had a really tough bout with it. And while he was listed at 210 and may have never been 210, he had to work his way back to get to 190 on his pro day. So you could tell he lost a lot of weight. Wasn't quite the same player, but you still saw the tracking skills, the smarts. I like smart football players who, when the play doesn't go exactly as planned, they can make the last-second adjustment to make their teammates look good. And Rashad Bateman does that as a route runner. He understands coverages well enough or sees defenders dropping into where he's going to break and adjust his break to cut off the defender. He does a great job of being able to adjust athletically to passes that aren't always pinpoint, so he can make plays downfield and then still have the wherewithal and the athletic ability to avoid big hits when he's doing this in the middle of the field, and he bounces off contact. At 210, at his listed weight at college, I had him compared to guys like Michael Thomas and Keenan Allen, guys who could play both inside and outside, and that he's in that kind of style of player. But at 190 and maybe he only gets up to 200, he's more like a CeeDee Lamb. And CeeDee Lamb was my top receiver last year. And this is a great class of receivers once again. Bateman is the type of guy who can give you that inside-outside element. He has an unbelievable catch rate. If you look at his 2019 tape, this is the type of guy that you could start inside if you need to or move him around a little bit early in his career. Deciding what you want to do with Odell Beckham, you could probably put Bateman as the successor to Beckham down the line, or you could use him as just another weapon if you re-sign Beckham, or the Browns keep him down the line there too. Or if they decide that Landry at this point it's time to move on and they want to keep him in the slot, he can play that role too. He can stretch horizontally, vertically. He can run after the catch. This is a smart, tough football player who's dynamic.
Matt, I just want to say you put a big smile on my co-host's face because he's been using Rashad Bateman as an example. He's a big Big Ten fan, follows the league very closely, and has been using Rashad Bateman as the type of player who, if he was there at 26, would have to make you think, because the
Yes.
2019 tape is that good, as he reminds us on a regular basis here on this program. It's interesting. You have him third among your receivers. Who do you have the two ahead of him, and who is the one that you think other people maybe have a little too high?
Yeah, I mean, my two ahead of him, certainly Jamar Chase. I think he can do everything you're looking for from a wide receiver, one of the highest graded receivers that I think I've ever given those marks to. Played inside and outside. He can give you, the tough physical play or hold up to it at least. And then he has that speed to be able to stretch the field. And then when you look at a guy like Jalen Waddle, listen, I think a lot of people the Raiders went nuts over Henry Ruggs, but it's something that I wrote about Henry Ruggs. He had difficulty getting in and out of his breaks fast enough, and he wasn't going to be that intermediate guy. And you can talk all you want about having a deep receiver who can, stretch the field vertically, or can take a short pass a long way. But if defenses don't respect your ability to win within 14 to, say, 40 yards in that range where the timing routes are, then it's easier for them to play those extremes. And, listen, Mike Mayock said at the end of this year, Henry Ruggs needs to work on his breaks, getting in and out of his breaks. And when you look at a guy like Jalen Waddle, he has no problem getting in and out of his breaks, and he does it at such a high rate of speed. He could be the ultimate weapon of the skill players in this class. It just depends on where he goes, because he can play a little inside and outside, but he's clutch. If there's a guy that he reminds me of, it isn't so much Tyreek Hill, though. That can be the play style or scheme fit comparison that he could be put into if there's a right team fit for that isn't the Chiefs, and I don't think there are many, if any. But if a guy that he compares well to is Santana Moss, the former wide receiver of the Jets, who had a 1,400-yard season with Chad Pennington in an era where, cornerbacks, weren't just playing patty cake with receivers back then. And this is a guy that is definitely he can take physical play. He is clutch. And for a while, before I watched the final round of Jamar Chase tape, certainly had Waddle very high. He might have been my number one guy until that point. And then Devonta Smith, I have a little bit lower. I like Devonta Smith. I think he's a fantastic player, goes up and wins the ball. He can run good routes. He has good feel for, press coverage, but against the top patient corners in the league. And he's faced the top patient corners in the SEC, and those guys usually have some work to do to adjust, but at least for a year or two before they get good in the NFL. Look at C.J. Henderson of the Jaguars. He's a good example of a top patient corner with great athletic ability, and, he wasn't, unbelievable with the Jaguars first year. Well, when you look at a guy like Smith, he has some issues with guys like that. They can pin him to the boundary. He's got to work on being able to release inside, to work back to the outside, and develop some techniques to work through that so that, when patient corners get the better of him, he has an answer. Until that happens, he's probably not going to be, your primary type of guy, but he's a guy that can contribute right away, will make big plays on selected routes where he doesn't have to face those types of players. But in order for him to be worth the price of admission that he's going to get picked at, he's going to have to develop against patient guys and be able to have an answer to physical play so he doesn't get just locked down at the boundary.
All right, Matt. So Bateman is the Nick Chubb for you for this draft. If you're looking at guys, let's say Bateman's gone, and this could be anywhere 26 to the second round, are there any, or even later than that, speed guys? I think that's one thing we feel the Browns need in their receiving core is speed, whether it's a vertical guy or whether it's somebody who can stretch you horizontally on the jet sweeps and after the catch, etc. Are there any guys with speed? I know there are a lot in this draft, but any that you particularly like?
Oh, yeah. There's certainly guys that I like from that level. I would say a guy who's probably a little underrated because he had a knee injury and he just came back and he wasn't completely confident in it. You could look at Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State. He was one of the 3 to 4 fastest guys in the draft who can stretch the field that way, and he goes up and wins the ball. Guy's a dog when it comes to, playing physical. He'll cross the field to block people, too. So he ran pretty well at his pro day. I think he'll only become more confident in that knee and be fine. Jalen Darden out of UNT. This guy's like You can get within. He'll let you get within a half a step of him and then just blow by you. At 5'9", 174, he could play that slot and still be speedy outside of you. But then later in this draft, listen, if you just want someone who can like turn into an absolute monster down the line, and just is Jalen Camp out of Georgia Tech. This guy played in a triple option offense all but last year, and he's 6'2", 226. He runs a 4.43 40. He has a 4.16 20 shuttle, which is like blazingly quick to get on top of people. He can leap 40 inches, and he can lift the barbell 30 times. This is a strong, fast, physical freak of a guy whose dad lives near my town, who trains NFL players, and this kid can catch. He has. Listen. My favorite, artists that catching the ball, not necessarily great receivers, include Brandon Lloyd, Larry Fitzgerald. Odell certainly has some plays on that hit clip, and some of Jalen Camp's plays belong on that. He can track the heck out of the football. This guy you can get later in the draft. He might turn into a primary receiver one day.
Wow.
Matt, this was excellent.
Yes.
Appreciate your work a great deal and giving us a little bit of your time today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, that's Matt Waldman, creator of the Rookie Scouting Portfolio. Get the 2021 Rookie Scouting Portfolio today. Matt Waldman would be where to get that. He is fantastic, and some good nuggets there. Still so much more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. Get ready for the NFL Draft here in Cleveland. Special editions of Browns Live all this week, presented by Graham and Fisk Wine in a Can. Catch today's show in just minutes, 3 o'clock, for the latest draft news, analysis, and interview with NFL Draft guru Daniel Jeremiah. Watch Browns Live on the Browns website, Browns YouTube channels, at the Browns mobile app, and full replays of the show available at youtube.com/Browns. See what else we have to look forward to on the program today.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and set the stage for the week, kind of set the scene where this football team is. We'll talk with Daniel Jeremiah live, and we're going to have a special guest all week long on these shows, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 3 o'clock. Thursday, you and I will do the Browns Live Draft special together at 6 o'clock. And then Friday and Saturday. Saturdays will be around 5:30 at the conclusion of the draft. So Browns Lives all week long, the very latest, just quick in and out half hours, other than the Thursday night special.
And then, boy, you and I sharing a screen.
It's going to be great. I
It's
think
been a while, brother.
It's been a while since we've been in each other's presence, which I am very excited about.
Yeah, you dropped off a jersey. No. We were in the
training camp.
Camp too.
Training camp.
Training camp. Yeah.
We have not been indoors together though.
30.
In over a year.
Yeah, 59 weeks or something like that. It's been a very long time, my friends. You have that to look forward to, which is nice, and I'll look forward to that very, very much. We're back tomorrow for more fun.